Welcome to our documentary on the world's most deadliest serial killers in history. Throughout this series, we will journey into the dark underbelly of human nature, exploring the lives, motives, and crimes of individuals who have left an indelible mark on our collective consciousness. The cases we will be examining are not for the faint of heart. They involve acts of unspeakable cruelty and violence. However, it is through understanding these dark chapters of human history that we can better grapple with the complexities of human behavior and strive to prevent such horrors from recurring. In this video, we'll delve into the chilling stories of these infamous individuals, using historical and news facts to bring you accurate and updated information. We will examine the social and psychological factors that may have contributed to their descent into darkness, as well as the lasting impact their crimes have had on society. The fog-choked alleyways of London's Whitechapel district in 1888 became a hunting ground unlike any other. It was here that the chilling figure of Jack the Ripper emerged, leaving a trail of fear and bloodshed in his wake. His victims, all women, were subjected to a level of brutality that sent shockwaves through Victorian society and beyond. The Ripper's reign of terror was as swift as it was brutal. 5 women, all living and working within a small radius of Whitechapel, were brutally murdered within a span of just 3 months. Despite numerous eyewitness accounts and the best efforts of Scotland Yard, his true identity remains shrouded in mystery to this day. This elusive nature has only served to amplify his infamy, turning him into a spectre that continues to haunt the darkest corners of our imaginations. The name Jack the Ripper itself is a product of this mystery, taken from a letter sent to the Central News Agency during the height of the killings. Jack the Ripper's story serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly civilized societies. In criminal history, few names evoke the same chilling combination of charisma and cruelty as Ted Bundy. He shattered the mold of the stereotypical serial killer, presenting a facade of normalcy. Handsome and charming, Bundy lured his victims into a web of deception. His killing spree spanned several states throughout the 1970s. His victims, mostly young women, were often abducted in broad daylight. Bundy often feigned injury or impersonated authority figures. What set Bundy apart was his ability to blend into society. Bundy's trial and escape attempts solidified his notoriety. Decades after his execution, Ted Bundy's legacy casts a long shadow. The horrors that unfolded within Jeffrey Dahmer's Milwaukee apartment building in the 1980s defied comprehension, revealing a level of depravity that shocked even the most hardened investigators. Dahmer's crimes were not simply acts of violence, but a grotesque manifestation of his darkest fantasies, fueled by a potent cocktail of necrophilia, cannibalism, and a desperate need to exert ultimate control over his victims. Dahmer's victims, primarily young men and boys, were often lured back to his apartment under the pretense of companionship or modeling opportunities. Once inside, they were drugged, tortured, and ultimately killed, their bodies subjected to unspeakable acts of mutilation and desecration. Dahmer's capture in 1991 was almost accidental, the result of a would-be victim escaping his clutches and alerting authorities. The subsequent investigation uncovered a chamber of horrors that shocked the nation and forced the world to confront the stark reality of evil lurking beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary life. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes serve as a chilling reminder of the dark potential that resides within the human psyche. Beneath the jovial facade of a party clown, John Wayne Gacy harbored a chilling secret. A respected member of his suburban Chicago community, Gacy used his position of trust to prey on vulnerable young men, luring them to his home with promises of work, money, or simply a sense of belonging. Their trust would be their undoing, leading them into a nightmare from which there would be no escape. Gacy's transformation into Pogo the Clown was more than just a hobby. It was a carefully constructed persona that allowed him to lower the guard of his victims and disarm any suspicions. The full extent of Gacy's crimes came to light in 1978, when a teenage boy, last seen alive with Gacy, disappeared. A search of his home uncovered a gruesome discovery: the bodies of 29 young men and boys buried in the crawl space beneath his house. John Wayne Gacy's crimes exposed the dark side of the American dream, where suburban normalcy could conceal unspeakable horrors. His legacy remains a chilling reminder that monsters can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly ordinary lives. Aileen Wuornos's life was a tragic tapestry of abuse, abandonment, and ultimately, violence. Forced into prostitution at a young age, she navigated a dangerous and unforgiving world, her trust in men eroded by years of exploitation and betrayal. Wuornos's killing spree, which took place along Florida's highways in the late 1980s and early 1990s, targeted men she claimed had picked her up for sex and then assaulted or attempted to assault her. Unlike many serial killers who operate in secrecy, Wuornos's crimes were brazen and public, committed along busy highways in broad daylight. Aileen Wuornos's story is a tragic reminder of the devastating impact of abuse and the cyclical nature of violence. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair, a dazzling spectacle of innovation, hid a sinister secret. Amidst the grandeur, H. Holmes, one of America's first serial killers, built the infamous Murder Castle. Holmes, a charismatic con artist, lured young women to his hotel. The hotel was a labyrinth with secret passageways and torture devices. The Murder Castle was designed to maximize suffering and dispose of victims efficiently. Holmes's crimes were hidden during the World's Fair, his victims lost in the city's chaos. The discovery of the Murder Castle shocked Chicago, revealing the dark side of the Gilded Age. Holmes's legacy is a chilling reminder of how evil can flourish amidst progress. The balmy nights of 1980s Los Angeles were shattered by a reign of terror. Richard Ramirez, a drifter with a chillingly vacant stare, stalked the streets and invaded homes. He became known as the Night Stalker, a demonic figure embodying the city's darkest nightmares. Ramirez's crimes were as random as they were brutal. He targeted victims of all ages, races, and backgrounds. Ramirez's reign ended in 1985 when vigilant citizens apprehended him. The Night Stalker may be gone, but his legacy of terror continues to haunt the city. In the annals of criminal history, few names evoke the same sense of chilling dread as Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov. Operating under the oppressive shroud of the Soviet Union in the 1970s and 1980s, Chikatilo preyed on the most vulnerable members of society. His crimes a gruesome testament to the dark potential that can fester beneath a veneer of normalcy. Chikatilo's victims, mostly young boys and girls, were lured to their deaths with promises of treats, toys, or help finding their way. Despite mounting evidence and a growing body count, Chikatilo managed to evade capture for over a decade. When Chikatilo was finally apprehended in 1990, his trial became a media sensation, offering the world a disturbing glimpse into the mind of a man driven by a potent cocktail of sexual deviancy, sadism, and a profound lack of empathy. Andrei Chikatilo's legacy continues to haunt the former Soviet Union, a chilling reminder of the human capacity for evil. The rugged, unforgiving landscape of the Andes Mountains became a hunting ground for one of the most prolific serial killers in history, Pedro Alonso Lopez, known as the Monster of the Andes. His crimes, targeting young girls across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, shocked the world with their brutality and the sheer scale of his depravity. Lopez's childhood was a brutal introduction to a world devoid of empathy or compassion. His modus operandi was as chilling as it was effective. He would prey on young girls from impoverished communities, often luring them away with promises of gifts or work. When Lopez was finally apprehended in Ecuador in 1980, his confession sent shockwaves through South America and beyond. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Lopez served only 16 years in prison, his release in 1998 sparking outrage and fear throughout the region. Behind the unassuming facade of an elderly man, Albert Fish harbored a darkness that defied comprehension. Known as the Grey Man, Werewolf of Wisteria, and the Brooklyn Vampire, Fish was a monstrous embodiment of depravity, his crimes a horrific testament to the dark potential that can lurk beneath a veneer of normalcy. Fish's crimes were not merely acts of violence, but rather grotesque rituals fueled by a potent cocktail of sadomasochism, cannibalism, and a perverse fascination with pain and suffering. Fish's modus operandi was as calculated as it was chilling. He would often target children from impoverished families, gaining their trust with promises of treats or toys before spiriting them away to their deaths. Fish's reign of terror finally came to an end in 1934, when he was apprehended for the kidnapping and murder of 10-year-old Grace Budd. Albert Fish's legacy continues to haunt the annals of criminal history. His crimes a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence in the face of evil. Thank you for watching our documentary on the world's most deadliest serial killers. We have journeyed together into the darkest corners of human nature, exploring the lives and crimes of individuals whose actions continue to shock and horrify. It is our hope that by shedding light on these dark chapters of human history, we can better understand the complexities of violence and work towards a safer, more empathetic world. By understanding the motivations and methods of these killers, we can better equip ourselves to identify and address the warning signs of violence in our own communities. Stay safe and vigilant.